I just got this Land Rover dropped off because the fan assembly is not turning on. I did not diagnose this car or anything, but they're just paying me to change the fan module. And she got the part off of Rock Auto, and it looks almost like a universal part. I didn't see the one on the car very clearly, but from what I could see, it has one connector on top. This one has two on the bottom. As you can see, it has all these extra harnesses, and their instructions have listed for different cars you could wire it up for. This looks to be the harness that's gonna fit the Land Rover. So it plug in right there on top. I'm not sure what to do about those, if they just stay open or exposed or whatever. But here's the thing, I popped the hood. There's something I noticed right off the bat. She may not even need that module. Let's see if I could zoom in for you guys. You see the little like violet wire? What do you see right there? Green crusties. Alright, so I got the connector off and the wire is actually still intact. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a little tug test and see what happens. There it goes. Alright guys, so I'm just gonna take a survey here, okay? Now, whenever someone drops off a car to fix it because they want me to replace a part, and then I find that it's simply just a corroded or broken wire, right? And really, to fix it, all we have to do is fix the wire, right? So whenever I tell my girlfriend this, I'm like, hey, it turned out to be just a broken wire that I'm gonna have to fix. So I say, you know what, I may charge them a little bit more, you know, and this is all, just assume that I'm not charging them a lot of money, because I don't charge my customers a lot of money, okay? So here's my thoughts. When you find wiring problems, would you charge extra for fixing this, or would you lower the price drastically? What's your thoughts? Because every time I tell my girlfriend, hey, I found just a broken wire, she was, oh good, you could lower the price for them and save them some money now. Should I really have to lower the price? Granted, this was an easy fix right here, but sometimes you have to really go digging and invest the time to get down to the bottom of finding a bad wire. So what's your thoughts? Should the price go down for doing this, or should the price actually go up because you have to track down a bad wire? So I figured before I replace any modules or use any of the harnesses out of the kit, I'm going to try to repair this. So I depinned the bad wire out of here. I pulled it out and I crimped on a new wire. You can see a new section of wire. I crimped it onto the little connector inside of here, and I even soldered that piece. And as you can see, I soldered the two wires together right here, and I'm just going to run this heat shrink over them. And we're just gonna go ahead and plug it into the module and see if the fans turn on. If the fans turn on, then we got this car fixed by fixing the wires, and we didn't have to replace anything. So the owner could get her money back for this module. And I did check the module on the car very closely, and it is identical to this. It does have one large plug on this side and two smaller ones on this side going to the fans. Okay, so a real quick test. I turned the car on, turn the AC on because it should trigger the fans. And now I just heard them turn off, but they were running. You could even see it spinning still. And so is the other fan. Hard to tell, but they're both spinning. Right now they're on low speed. Turn the AC off, at least I think that's the AC button. Turn it on again. And there goes the fans on high speed. Alright, so that's a fix. Did not need a module. And that's it. The wire is repaired. She's good to go. She could actually return that part and get her money back. Certified Pine Hollow Auto Diagnostics repair right here. Ivan would be proud. So we just had that piece of crap Chevy Malibu in here with the optional brakes, right? And now we got this Toyota in here. But I mean, it's got a lot of miles on it, and look what it's in for. Yep, a heat shield, loose. See, these are the type of problems you get from a quality Toyota. Oh, calm down, Scotty Kilmer. But I mean, you see what I mean? These are the problems that, you know, you should have on a car. You know, not crap like your brakes being optional on that piece of, and it's a 2016 Malibu. That's crazy that you're already having braking issues. That's, sorry, not for me. For this Toyota, it's a pretty simple fix. All I do is remove the nut and put a washer behind it, a bigger washer, because this is basically what's going on here. You can see how it's rotted away, and the washer that's originally built into the nut isn't holding the heat shield anymore. So I'm using my mini ductor here to heat them up, because these have a tendency to just snap off if you just go at them, you know, with an impact gun. Let's see if I could show you guys this one. I already did it. Come on, it's hard to see right there. So you can see I took the nut off, put a giant washer behind it, and I put the nut back on, and this side's already secure, nice and solid. So I'm just gonna go ahead and knock out this one. All right, so I'm pretty much all done here. So there's that one, and then I already showed you the first one, which is, you know, somewhere back there. But this thing is 100% solid now. It's not going anywhere. It's not going to make any noise. And that's it for this Toyota. Impala here, and it's here for rear brakes. But look at this, guys. Let me turn my light off. See this? And the rotor on the left side of the car is exactly the same way. This tells me that these brake pads are doing nothing to stop this car, okay? So the only thing stopping this car is really the front brakes, because no braking action is going on here. Look how bad that looks. This just baffles me. How why don't people stay on top of their brakes a little bit? It's a safety issue. This is just crazy, okay? And of course the parts I get is the cheap pads from AutoZone, so they don't come with the hardware kit, so I'm gonna be forced to reuse this kit. You know, looking at the condition of this, it's crazy. Of course we have new rotors for it, but you know, should at least got some decent pads so we could get some new hardware kit, but we're gonna have to reuse these. As you can tell, I'm pretty much done on this side. Cleaned up all the rust where I had to. The pads move freely, the caliper moves freely, everything is good here. You can see the back side of the old rotor. Here's the pad that was on the back, and here's the front pad. It was already missing that chunk out of it. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, that's wild. Look at that. I guarantee you there's going to be a massive difference on the way this car brakes after I'm done with this. It's going to be a night and day difference. And to show you guys I'm not just exaggerating, here goes the brakes on the driver's side. That's crazy. Got a 06 Hyundai Elantra that just got dropped off. Came in on the hook. It was in I guess a hit and run. So over the phone, the owner said the tie rod is broken. So as you can see, I already pulled off the outer tie rod, and there goes the inner. But when it got here, the tire was shoved right into the strut. You could see where it was revving. So as soon as I took the wheel off, I was like, yeah, man, this thing, look at the bend in that strut. It's completely bent. It's not going to work. I told him by putting the tie rods on it, the best he'll get is to be able to drive it home, because he lives really close by. But it's not drivable. The strut needs to get replaced. So I think he's going to try to run to AutoZone and get a strut for it today. But let me go forward and change out these tie rods. Alright, so the owner left with the key to walk to AutoZone, so that's probably going to be a good 30-40 minutes before he comes back. But since he left with the key, I was not able to turn the steering wheel to get the tie rods to come out as far as possible and make it a little bit easier to work on. But I managed to get it done. As you can see, nothing is on. Now the adjustment on this thing's way off, because I can't even measure the old stuff, because number one, because it was bent, and number two, because it's different aftermarket parts, it's nowhere near the same. So, you know, measuring from like a specific point right here to, you know, threads doesn't really, trust me, it's not gonna work unless I measure it all the way from the back. But it's in pieces, so whatever. I'm gonna have to try to eyeball it once I get everything together and try to get the wheel as straight as I can. Of course, it's gonna have to go in for a wheel alignment. But what else? Let's see. Oh, I noticed that the oxygen sensor was actually sitting like this right on top of the CV axle, so it's just rubbing. I don't know how long it's been like that. I don't know if it's from the accident, but I'm just gonna go ahead and loop up the wiring, move it over here, and zip tie it to, I don't know if this is like a coolant hose or something, but it's got to be better than rubbing on the CV shaft. So until we get the strut, I'm just here waiting, and it sucks because since the car got towed in, I couldn't get into the garage, so I'm like just out here in the sun working on the car, getting beat on by the sun. And the thing is, since all of this is bent and twisted, it's actually really difficult to separate the two because everything's bent. So I really hope he can. I checked the parts on the AutoZone app, and at my local AutoZone they did say that they have one in stock, but I know how that goes sometimes, you know. Says it's in stock, but it's really not. So hopefully they do have it, because if they don't and he tells me to just put this back together, this is going to be a nightmare because everything's bent. It may almost be impossible to put it back together. So the story on this one is he said he was just driving and some car came out of nowhere and hit him, and you know, obviously it made his car stationary, couldn't really move it anymore. But it was some young kids in another car. They got out the car, and he said he was gonna call the police and blah blah blah, whatever, right, to file a police report. Apparently they didn't have insurance or something like that. So when he said he was gonna call the police, they start, you know, starting a commotion and throwing up gang signs to him. So they all jumped in the car and they just fled the scene, you know, throwing gang signs at him, you know, stupid, immature shit. And it sucks in a situation like this because whenever there's an accident like this, it's always the car that gets hit. It's like it's the victim that the car becomes immobilized, and they're stuck with a bill and trying to repair the car, whereas the car that hit them is usually the car that ends up driving away. It's just shitty how things like that work out, you know. You know, once in a while it'll be nice that you know, yeah, it sucks to hit your car, but your car still drives, but theirs got damaged to the point where they're kind of stuck at the crime scene. Let's just call it a crime scene. Yeah, so that's what I was told by the owner. It just really sucks. We're back with this Chevy Colorado. It's the one with the infamous body work. So the complaint this time is the battery keeps dying, right? So he said he noticed that without the key in the ignition, if you put the radio in, it still has power, which is not a good sign, right? Now he said he just had this radio installed not too long ago, that he bought it off of his neighbor, and his neighbor sold it to him and installed it for him for $75. So I guess what you pay is what you get, just like your body work, huh? Also, I asked him about the battery, and he said that the battery, he had just changed it when he got the truck, so a few months ago, but he bought a used battery. And he said it's still under warranty if he needs to change it. I'm like, what the heck? Who does that? I told him, hey, if it needs a battery, go out and buy a brand new one. Alright, so I took the cover off of the fuse box, and first thing I noticed is this foreign wire. It looked like speaker wire. You can see it's tapped right into that fuse right there. It goes along here alongside with this red one. I don't know what this red wire is for, but also goes through that grommet into the firewall. And it looks like the red wire goes, I don't know, into the door or something. I don't know. But anyway, the speaker wire goes underneath the carpet, and then it comes out over here, right, and goes up to what looks like behind the radio. So I already knew that the radio had to come out, but just seeing that, it's like, up, you know, you're in for a treat, right? This guy, it's like this guy doesn't learn. You know, what you pay is what you get. Like, stop being cheap. Just I don't know, guys, I don't know what to tell you. So I guess let's pull this radio out, even though I knew it had to come out already. Got the front face or fascia off, okay? we're already seeing signs of quality workmanship here. Look at that. What's that, like a drywall screw? Look, 2 over here. Look at this. Look at this. You know what I have to question? And this thing's everything's broken here. You could see when I took it out, like all the chunks of plastic just fell. So clearly this thing was broken when he took it apart. But my question is, this thing had the original radio in it, so when you pull this out, there had to have been screws in here. Why didn't you reuse the screws that came off? It makes no freaking sense, right? Maybe if I just turn it 50 more times, it'll come out. Crazy. $75, people. This is a $75 job right here, and that includes the radio, okay? That is crazy. But I don't see that speaker. Oh, I do see it. I was gonna say I don't see that speaker wire that we got coming from the fuse box, but it's right here, right? And they got it, so they got it tapped into this blue wire. Yep, constant power. That's crazy, man. This is crazy. So I'm done looking at this. Now I'm gonna go ahead and call the owner and give him a quote on how much it's gonna cost to fix this. I'm just gonna go ahead and disconnect this. Just leave it alone. No more power going to that radio. Alright, so I am just about done with this harness, and you can see the massive improvement. Everything is soldered, cleaned, and heat shrinked. And this is why they had this wire coming all the way from the fuse panel up front. Is because they didn't have a power source here, but you know, you have to look for whatever's closer. So this plug right here sits right above the radio. Okay, so the radio would be right here, and this plug is gonna sit like right here. And it has a power on it that is only there whenever you turn the key in either accessory or you turn the engine on. Once you turn the key off, you lose the power here. So this is a perfect location to tap into it. And of course everything, now this one actually did a crimp and heat shrink over it, but it's nice and solid. It's not going anywhere. And as you can see, if you were to pull out the radio separate from this, you don't want this thing hardwired into the top harness. So I have this little connector right here, and of course I got to get something to protect it so it doesn't make contact with ground. But the point is, you could disconnect this, and I can't do it one hand, but you could disconnect this at any point whenever you want to remove this harness. And look how neat that came out. With a little bit of time and effort, looks super clean. And we have our power source coming right here, right next to where it's gonna sit. There's no reason to run a wire all the way throughout the car. So this is what I pulled out, and I didn't look underneath this tape right here, but I'm gonna assume there's a break in this wire, and they wrap the wire together here. So yeah, real shitty connection, or just job in general. But I'm really happy with the way this turned out. It looks much cleaner. And I already tested the radio, and it works perfectly now. Whenever you take the key off, or you take the key out or turn the key off, the power turns off on the radio, so it's not going to be draining the battery. The truck's been running for about a half hour just to get a good surface charge on the battery. I just turned it off, and I turned the headlights on. You can probably see. Turn the headlights on. It hasn't been more than 30-45 seconds, and look at the battery voltage. It's just plummeting. Yeah, the battery on this thing is spanked. So we got the radio all fixed up. The wires look good. The radio works how it should now, but this battery is no good. Who put this right here?
Who?
This.
I think my son. My son might have did that. And I've been trying to.
You gotta use a screwdriver to rotate the seat?
No, what happens? The seat ain't holding up.
Oh, I see.
So. It ain't been holding up.
Got a 2002 Grand Am here. The owner's having an issue with the window going down. For the most part it works, right? But it intermittently stopped working. So I diagnosed a bad switch. As you can see, I put tape on it right there because the owner kept forgetting about it. She kept hitting the switch, and then the window would get stuck. And also we have a bad motor. For the most part it works, but if you were to lower this thing all the way to the bottom until it stops, the window does not want to come back up again. So because of that, I diagnosed we're gonna go ahead and change the motor as well as the switch. As you can see, we have a replacement switch right here, and here goes the new motors right here. So let's go ahead and swap them out. So it is the moment of truth. I have the new motor installed and a new window switch. Let's go ahead and give it a go. It works. Okay, here's the moment of truth for real, because every time when it would go all the way down to the bottom, it does not want to come back up. So sweet. Again, and the one touch down feature actually works now. So here goes the old switch. I mean, this thing was just mangled up. So here goes the driver. No, actually this is the driver switch window, and you can see how they just like everything just wants to fall apart as you touch. Look at that. This switch is done for, but everything works now. New window, motor, and new switch. So once again, we are back with the Pontiac Aztek that never stops giving. This time it has no brakes again. Remember last time, not last time, but a while ago it was here because I had no brakes, and I ended up replacing the brake line from like right here all the way to this wheel, right? So again, has no brakes. Pedal goes all the way to the floor. The reservoir was completely empty, so I added some brake fluid, and it did not take long to find a leak. Look at this. So I looked at it already, and it's basically the same exact line that I repaired on the driver's side. Well, now the same exact line is bad on the passenger side. See, it comes around the same exact way. It goes all the way to the back wheel. So looks like I'm gonna have to do the same exact repair here. She has to leave her car unlocked because the driver door, if she locks it, she can't get back in with the key or the remote. So I don't know, gotta figure out what's going on with it, but that sucks. America, America. Alright, so I got the green light from the owner to go ahead and fix it. You can see right there, right where it's leaking. I'm just gonna go all the way back to right there where there's a fitting, and then we'll screw into that rubber hose. So basically we're only gonna have one splice in here. We're not gonna have two or three. Alright, so I'm just about done with the repair. Here goes my splice, and that metal line, the one going to the front of the car, right there, looks a little rough, but it's actually in decent condition. So I just have to finish cleaning it up, and I'm actually going to spray the rest of this line with the CRC corrosion inhibitor, which is this thing. So I've already sanded down the line with sandpaper, and I'm going to continue to clean it up a little bit more. But that's my splice. Comes along this side and goes into its first tie down place, and as you can see, it's wet right there because I went ahead and sprayed all the areas where it's making contact with the plastic. I sprayed it with the CRC corrosion inhibitor. Not that it really needs it because the line's not going to rust, but a little bit of extra protection is not going to hurt. So it comes this way, goes around this part of the frame. Again, another tie down, and again I sprayed that with the CRC. It's going to bend up there, follows all the body lines. Another tie down right there, as you can see. And then after this one, it goes straight into the brake hose right there. Alright, so both of my connections underneath the car are nice and tight, and I've already filled up the system with brand new brake fluid, and I've also opened up this bleed valve right here, and I'm just gonna kind of wait for it to gravity bleed, and once I see it start to drip out, then I could actually start bleeding the system. Alright, so I'm just about done here. The brake pedal feels great, and I double and triple checked my connections, and we have absolutely no leaks anywhere. So I'm gonna go ahead and spray this stuff down with the CRC. Again, not that it needs it, but some extra protection. Why not, right? Alright, so the only clip that was giving me problems was this one right here. If you just looked at it wrong, it would pop out of its little hole that's drilled into the frame. So what I did is I just grabbed a little P-clip, as you can see right there, and it has like the rubber insulator on it, and I used a self-tapping screw to screw it into the sheet metal, and that's gonna hold it in place, because this thing, yeah, it just kept popping out and it wasn't gonna hold the brake line firmly. I know the brake line is not touching anything, it's just a weird angle, but there's plenty of space all the way around. It does not touch anything. So anyway, now that I got the P-clip in place, I'm gonna go ahead and spray it down so it doesn't just rot away. Alright, so I took the Aztec out for a test drive. Brakes feel good, no leaks or anything, so that's all set. Next thing is the driver door. The key doesn't do anything when you put it inside the cylinder. It won't move. It's just like jammed up. So with the door panel off, and if you look at the cylinder, see how corroded it is. So I'm guessing it's just stuck because it's rusted in place. So I'm gonna try to remove it and we'll see if we could free it up. Alright, so this isn't making much sense to me. I took the cylinder out, and with the key in it, it turns fine. And if you look inside of here, I don't see like crazy amount of corrosion or anything. It turns fine, like I said, but when it was on the car, it didn't want to turn. So it makes you think, okay, so maybe it's just the rod that it's connected to, right? But this rod right here moves just fine. Look, lock, unlock, moves just fine. So what is the problem here? Why was it not working? I don't know, let's figure this out. But in any case, I'm going to end up spraying inside of here with some fluid film. Okay, so the cylinder is back installed. As you can see, I gave it a heavy, very heavy douching of fluid film and sprayed some other things inside of there. You can see down there, but it works now. Go ahead and let's see, that should be locked right there, and yes, it is locked. And open. There we go, it works. So honestly, this could have been one of those jobs where if you just spray some sort of lubricant inside of the keyhole, it would have most likely gotten it working, because I took it apart but I didn't really find anything wrong. You know, all I did was spray some fluid film in it, got it working, but you could have just easily done that from here, you know. But I seriously thought there was going to be a problem here, so it's why I took it apart. So a little mental note for the future: if I come across a problem like this, just try spraying the lubricant inside of the keyhole first, see if it does anything. So that's it, everything's put back together and everything works. Locked, open. The new tool, it's to check bolts, so you can find out what bolt size and thread pitch it is. So you can see it works for male and female sides. It's pretty neat, goes all the way up. You know, I figure I could use something like this in the rare occasion that you end up breaking a bolt and it needs to get replaced. You don't spend all day pulling out the tap and die set or whatever the other heck things we have to try to measure threads. Just see if it screws into one of these bad boys, and all the sizes are stamped on the side of it. So I thought it was pretty neat.